What's up everybody, my name is Bobby and today I'm going to be giving you guys another review, and today we're going to be taking a look at that guy right over there hanging up on the wall, the Jones 15 bag by Nutsac. So before we get started, I really want to thank you guys for checking out my channel and checking out this video. I really love doing this stuff, and so for all of you guys who like, comment, and subscribe, I really do appreciate it, and it does help me, you know, chase my passion / dream or whatever you want to call it. So thank you guys for those of you who do those things. Now, without further ado, over the course of my life, I've always heard a particular saying thrown around that in recent years has started to kind of align more with how I want to live my life and kind of choose the things that I decide to spend my money on. And that saying is quality over quantity. You know, growing up, I realized at a pretty young age how hard it can be to earn money, and the thought of spending more money on an item for one that I could get a similar item in the same category of thing, like let's say a backpack, for example. The thought of spending more money on a backpack when I could get one for cheaper just was like really hard for me to wrap my head around, and I never really wanted to do it. And I would always end up just getting an item that would eventually break pretty quickly or get ruined in one way or another, and that I'd have to replace, and I'd go ahead and get the cheapest version that I could find. And it was just this constant cycle of always like getting more and more of these things and having to replace it. It wasn't until pretty recently, when I looked back at all the crap essentially that I had bought over the course of my life, that really dawned on me that it actually started to make sense. So this really started to hit home when I was selling TVs working at Best Buy over the course of the last couple years. Now, from the nature of that job, I started to learn what the differences were between getting a $250 4K TV and why some people were spending $5,000 on a 4K Sony OLED TV. Now, on paper, they're both 4K TVs. They're both, you know, they get the same job done essentially, but if you ever have the chance to walk into a Best Buy or a similar store and listen to someone who actually knows what they're talking about explain those differences and show them to you, and you actually observe what it is those differences are, you very quickly learn that in life you definitely get what you pay for. Now, whether or not spending that extra money for a more premium product or a more premium experience, whether or not that's worth it to you, that's totally up to you. But in recent years, I've been trying to live by the mantra that I heard when I was doing that job, which was buy once, cry once. And so the idea of that is that, you know, if you buy a more premium product, sure, it's gonna suck the one time you buy it. It's gonna, you know, hurt the bank account a little bit more than usual. But then you're gonna have like a really premium product that's gonna last you a super long time, way longer than the cheaper alternatives. And on top of that, while the whole time that you're using that product, it's gonna be a better experience. So for me, I've been trying to buy less crap and kind of, you know, save up my money and try to buy something that's gonna last me for the long run. And that brings us to today's video. So, like I mentioned, we're gonna be looking at that bag right over there from Nutsac. Now, Nutsac, I know, it's a funny name. Nutsac is a American, USA-made bag manufacturer that makes all sorts of different products, from like duffel bags, sling bags, messenger bags, backpacks, all sorts of bags, you name it. They even have little pouches, things of that nature. And honestly, I've heard about this brand for a while, and as I've gotten more into like the EDC world and, you know, everyday carry, and started to be a lot more thoughtful about the different things that I, you know, bring with me on a daily basis, I've heard about this brand. But traditionally, Nutsac usually specializes in these like waxed canvas bags. So almost all their products that you'll see when you look at their website are going to be in this like very unique kind of like waxed canvasy looking style that also patinas really well, and it's, you know, pretty affordable too, relatively, and that's kind of their bread and butter. Now, for those of you guys who watch this channel and know a little bit about me, I am so into high quality leather that for me the thought of carrying anything other than that was never even a question. So as much as I thought Nutsac was really cool, I'm like tried and true leather exclusively. So for me, I never picked up one of their products just because I wanted something leather, and the majority of what they do is in that waxed canvas style. Now, pretty recently, in the last, you know, year plus range, at least from the time of me posting this video. But in a relatively recent span of time, Nutsac actually kind of dipped their toe into the leather world and released 2 bags in particular made of this really, really nice high quality leather. And those are going to be what they call their Jones 13 and the Jones 15. Now, the 13 and the 15 are actually the same bag. They're really just kind of designed to correspond towards whatever size laptop it is that you carry. So if you carry a 13-inch laptop, the Jones 13 is usually the choice. If you want the bigger one and you have like a 15-inch, the Jones 15 is usually the choice. Now, with the recent switch of MacBook Pro sizes going from 13 to 14 and 15 to 16, being that I have the 14-inch one, when I was grabbing the bag, the one I'm going to be reviewing is going to be the Jones 15. So I got the 15 because I didn't know at the time if the 14 would fit in it. I have later come to learn that the 14 will fit in the Jones 13, but it's going to be a more snug fit. And then a 15-inch MacBook Pro a 16-inch MacBook Pro will fit inside a Jones 15, but it'll be a little bit more snug. But one thing to note is if you do have like, a bigger, thicker computer, like bigger than a MacBook Pro, and you're trying to push that size a little bit, you might be out of luck. So for those of you who have like big gaming computers or things like that, I might not bank on it fitting inside if it's a little bit bigger than the designated size that they offer. Who knows? Maybe, Nutsac will update the bags at some point down the road, but just something I thought I'd let you know. Now, as for the name of the company, Nutsac, I honestly think it's a pretty funny conversation starter. Maybe that's like the 12-year-old boy in me, but who knows? Honestly, most people think it's pretty funny that that's what it's called. But the nice thing about their bags, though, is if you don't want, on the outside of your nice bag that you're taking into the office, if you don't want it to say Nutsac on the outside of it, when you purchase your bag, you actually have the option to choose between the branding with the actual name of the company and the branding with just their little acorn logo. So that is a nice little touch. The Jones line, at least when I was purchasing mine, it didn't give me any option. It just gives you the one with the acorn logo. So maybe they just assume that, you're gonna wanna class it up a little bit. But yeah, just so you're aware, if that was a concern, being that the name is Nutsac, you don't need to worry about that. It's a really sleek logo in my opinion, and I think it looks great. Now, let's talk about the leather. For those of you who watch my channel, you probably know this, and I've said it already in this video, and I'll say it till I'm blue in the face. I am a huge, huge fan of high quality leather, accessories and goods and things of that nature. Now, the leather that they use for this bag has to be one of the most unique, supple, high quality, best leather good product that I've ever tested. Nutsac uses a supple Madone leather that is veg tanned, and it's actually stuffed with these oils and hot waxes, and they treat it in a certain way where what you end up getting is a finished product that is one of the most unique textures and looks and feel to a bag that I've ever experienced. It's really actually pretty cool. And so that whole, hot oil and wax kind of process that they use, it really adds a lot of character to the bag. And so there's a term in the leather world called pull up, where if you bend or manipulate the leather in a certain way, you'll notice that the color changes, and you can see those oils and waxes kind of moving throughout the hide, if you will. And then as you apply some friction to that area where the color's been changed, you'll notice it start to kind of flood back into that area. And basically what this ends up doing is as you use the bag and you kind of go through your life on a day-to-day basis, the way you manipulate the flap, the places you put it, the way it rubs up against your clothes, you'll start to notice that because of that way that they treated the leather, it'll start to adapt and kind of fade and, adapt a patina that's very unique to the way you carry and use the bag. And for me, I thought that was really, really neat. That was super attractive to me because I love the way things age and the way they look better over time. And to think that they've kind of added those, other elements into the mix to really kind of amplify that was pretty exciting to me. The texture of the bag too is also something that I've never experienced with any sort of leather good. It's the word supple, I think, does explain it. It's just their verbiage and that's how they do, but it's unbelievably soft. So when you touch it, you can tell that it's been like wax treated a little bit, if that makes sense. But it doesn't feel too waxy. It just feels like a really nice sheen to it and very like smooth. And then you know, sometimes like when something has that waxier texture, you know, it'll have like a residue or it'll feel like waxy on your hand. And I've never felt that once with this bag. It's like just the perfect amount to where it adds that softness to it, but it doesn't feel weird when you know, touch the bag or anything like that, or you don't feel like you have to wash your hands or anything like that. It's really, really well done. I think it's like the perfect blend of all those different elements. Now, not only does the bag look beautiful, not only does it feel beautiful. Feel beautiful? Is that even a thing? I don't know. This bag absolutely smells amazing. So, you know, for me, I have friends that like know how into this stuff I am, and they know how much I enjoy these like weird like niches, if you will. And like for me, I feel like you can always, I always like, if it doesn't smell right, it's not right. So like anytime you get any leather product, if it doesn't have that really distinct smell, for me, it's like, I don't care. Even if it's like Louis Vuitton or something like that, that's like, you know, quote unquote really high quality, or you know, someone will be like, I got a really high quality wallet, it's Louis Vuitton. I don't know what it is, but when companies like overtreat the leather and do all that extra stuff to it to a point where it's like more processed, and it just isn't, it doesn't have that same feel to it. And so when you get a really nice quality bag like this and you smell that leather smell, it's just out of this world to me. I don't know why. I love it so much. But this bag smells so good that I keep it hanging up on the wall right over here. And when I come into my office every day to work, I feel like I'm just getting like buffeted in the face by this like beautiful smell, and it just kind of hangs in the air. And that's why I keep it right there personally. And like, I like it so much that sometimes I'll like just walk over there and just give it a whiff just cause. Like, I'm such a weirdo, but I don't give a shit. I love it. It smells great. If you're into that kind of thing too, which if you're watching this kind of video, you probably are, you'll definitely appreciate it. Side note, Nutsac, if you end up watching this, I think you guys should make car fresheners, like a car air freshener, because personally, I think having a Nutsac scented air freshener would be hilarious, and it would smell phenomenal, and I'd get to have that smell in my car. So leather aside, as far as the hardware goes on the bag, so like the rivets, the little, you know, clamps for the bag strap, and the place you actually connect the bag strap, all of that hardware is made of this like antique brass that I think really complements the ox blood colored leather. It looks really, really good together. The only metal hardware that I'm aware of that isn't in that antique brass is like the zippers, which are YKK zippers and really high quality for the most part. And those are like in this black color, which I think also complements the other colors in the bag. And so nothing really jumps out as looking out of place, and it all looks really phenomenal in my opinion. It also definitely has some heft to it. Like, it feels like it's real good quality. Now, the only thing in regards to the hardware that I'm not the biggest fan of is on the actual clips that you clip onto the bag for the bag strap. They have this really, it's kind of a double-edged sword. They have this really nice mechanism where it's super easy to open them, it's super easy to close them. And it's got this long protruding point essentially that kind of acts as like the little leverage point to go ahead and open up the clip. The only downside to this is when you have the bag hanging over your shoulder, if you're holding something down on the same side, which this is a really specific weird scenario, but like for example, you know, I parked outside and I was walking into my spot, and I had the bag on my shoulder and I was holding a grocery bag in each hand. I could feel the metal clip poking against my wrist, and it was just kind of like every step it would jab a little into my wrist. Did it hurt? No. Is it a big deal? Definitely no. Are there ways that I could have worn the bag like by just slinging it, you know, over my shoulder and having it on my back that could have completely avoided this whole thing? Yes. So that being said, just figured I would mention it. Now, touching on the design of the bag itself, just like aesthetically how it looks as a whole, this is absolutely my favorite bag I have ever seen in my entire life. Now, I'm not being paid by them. I give it to you guys straight. If you watch any of my videos, you do know this. Genuinely, when I've been looking at every single option that's on the market, there's not one bag that I personally feel like looks better. Now, that's my own personal opinion. You may disagree with me, and that's totally fine. but this is my favorite design bag that I've ever seen by a landslide. And the reason for that is because I think it is the perfect mix of a modern style bag and a vintage looking bag at the exact same time. So a lot of times when I've been looking for these kind of things, I find that a lot of the bags, they fall into one of the two camps. It either looks really modern and sleek, or it looks very vintage and rustic with big, hardware and just, I don't know, like it's either one of the two. Like it never really falls in the middle, at least that I'm aware of. And for me, I feel like it's like the perfect mix, like the way the bag looks, the hardware, the mechanism when you open it. We'll get into some other reasons why, but I think it's the perfect mix of both of those styles with really high quality leather that's gonna patina and age. It's just all the things that I've been looking for in a bag in one. And so for me, I think it's like a 10 out of 10 as far as that goes. So the strap on the bag also plays into that. I think they did a fantastic job. It's made of this like custom webbing, and it has these little like leather loops to kind of hold down the bag, and then it's that brass hardware if you want to adjust it. And not only is the bag made of like a custom webbing, so it's actually not made of leather, which, side note, they actually did make it with leather in a while. Like the original version was made with leather, the strap, and I guess there was multiple problems with it, and so they changed it to the new version, and Nutsac hooked up their new customers who had problems with the old strap with the new strap for free, which is also a really neat thing. But getting sidetracked, then the strap, it's like this custom webbing and it looks phenomenal. And then on top of that, it has this like leather pad, so you still get that leather accent with this really nice mesh feel on the bottom of it that you can have sit on your shoulder, and it lets you kind of slide the bag along the strap as it's on you. So it's a really easy to kind of maneuver strapping system. And so for me personally, I think it's killer, and that custom webbing material, I think is like the perfect color and texture and complement to the way that the bag looks. It doesn't look out of place on an all leather bag. It feels like perfectly, it looks like that's what it should be, I mean, leather straps are notoriously not comfortable, and so this just kind of adds that little bit of functionality that you might be missing if you went the traditional all leather strap route, if that makes sense. So to get into the bag, it has a leather flap that sits over the front of it, and then you pop it off the little brass stud rivet and slide the little flap out of the loop, if you will. It's a really simple mechanism. It goes in, clips on pretty easily, goes out. The only downside to it is I find that it's like a couple steps too much to just quickly get into it. So I'm coming from the peak design bag world where, the backpacks I have, you sling them right around you and there's a side pocket that instantly zips open. So I'm really used to fast in and out opening mechanisms, if that makes sense. And this bag doesn't really have that. But I think the benefit you get from that is like, say you're, carrying it on the subway or rocking around the city. The difficulty, I shouldn't say difficulty because it's not difficult, but the amount you have to fidget with it to get into the bag is enough to deter someone who might be like pickpocketing or doing something like that. Like it's not an easy little grab something kind of bag. So it protects the stuff inside there as well, like from, weather elements or whatever it may be. It's just a nice, easy kind of flap that's just difficult enough, I feel like, to deter any sort of, little five-finger discounts, if you will. So once you get the flap open, you have two main compartments. So there's going to be like a little thin kind of front zipper pocket, and then you're also going to get the main compartment, which zips over the top. Now there is one other exterior pocket, and it's actually going to be one of those like non-zipping or closure style pockets that's actually on the back of the bag. And a lot of people really love these because they'll throw papers down there. Maybe when they're getting out of their car, they'll toss their phone and their keys as they're walking into the office, just into that little pocket. It's kind of one of those quick access things that's not really meant to conceal or hold the items too drastically. Like say if the bag tipped over, everything would fall out of that pocket. But it's a really quick little access pocket that I know a lot of people, that makes or breaks a bag for them. So I just figured I would mention it. Another thing I would mention is there is no magnetic closure of that too. So like I remember I was showing someone the bag and they were like, oh, is that magnetic on the back? That'd be sweet. And I was like, no, it's not. That would be really sweet. But it's not a big deal to me. I don't really use that pocket anyway. So for me, doesn't make a big difference. For you, I just thought I'd let you know. So once you crack into the bag, it has that front zipper pocket. So for me, I feel like that pocket is really designed for a bunch of all your daily smalls. So, you know, everything from like, you know, your gum to your keys, I guess, to like all the little accessories and little trinkets and pens or organizers or things you might, you know, carry with you on a daily basis. There's not a lot of depth to that pocket, but for me, I just toss everything from like my pocket knives to, you know, freaking tools, just random little things. I'll just keep them all inside that pocket, and that's really how I use that front one. And then when you crack into the big guy right up top, there is a little bit more organization. So within that big main pocket, you're gonna get the main spot for your laptop, and then you're gonna get another little zipper pocket, you know, right next to it that you can store whatever you want in. Then there's kind of the big open chamber, if you will. In that area you can put whatever you want. And then there's kind of two little pouch style pockets. So as far as pockets and organizations go, it's not the craziest. Again, coming from a Peak Design bag, which really goes kind of over the top with the organization and pockets and that type of functionality, it did feel like a little bit more bare bones. But for me, it was actually kind of an interesting experience, because I feel like the more pockets a bag has, sometimes that kind of, at least for me, it like makes me want to try to fill every single pocket with something. And so kind of stripping that down a little bit and just kind of going with the bare bones really let me kind of re-examine what it is that I'm lugging around with me all the time. And since I'm going from like a backpack to that messenger style bag as far as like an everyday carry bag, I did have to strip some stuff down and try some different things out. And it's actually been a pretty nice surprise. I've noticed I'm not missing anything because I've kind of stripped it down to the essentials and the things that I'm actually using, and everything has its place. And so I really enjoy it. The entire interior of the bag is lined with like a khaki canvas that, being a lighter color, makes it really easy to see all the stuff that's inside the bag. And not to mention the softness of that fabric keeps your, you know, items from getting scuffed up. There's no exposed leather on the inside too, which it just makes it feel like a much more premium, modernized product, if you will. So like, you know, not seeing all that leather on the inside, it feels like you open this like vintage shell into a modern interior. It's like, I don't know how to explain it, but it's a really nice pairing and it makes it feel really premium. Now, both of the main zippers on the top and that little one on the front, they actually have this like little leather rain flap that kind of conceals the actual zipper seam, if you will, and kind of hides the actual zipper itself a little bit. There was a couple instances where like trying to zip open the bag, like I had to kind of fiddle with it a little bit to like actually get a hold of the little pull tab because of that flap, which is a little inconvenient, but really that only happened like 1 or 2 times, and it was only on the top flap. I just figured I would mention it. And I think the purpose of that is to kind of add to the look of it, and also to kind of like, I think they're called rain flaps. I'm not sure. I don't know. I guess there's some functionality as well, but I think it's nice that you don't have to look at a big metal zipper on your beautiful leather bag. It like hides that and just kind of makes it look like one solid piece of leather, which is pretty nice. You know, as for the details in the whole bag, I really like gave this guy a look over, being how nice of a bag it is. And I didn't notice a single bad stitch on the entire bag personally. The only thread that I saw poking out was on one of the zippers, on the little leather extra thing that's attached to the pull tab. The finishing, like, you know, where they tied off the thread that they stitched it with, there was like a little piece sticking out. Now, I don't know if they didn't burn it off. I don't know what their process is. I don't really care. I didn't know. It was like the most minuscule thing in the world, and I actually had to like really look to find it. And it was on the little extra piece of leather on the pull tab that it wasn't even on the bag. So as far as the bag goes, top tier. That thread that I mentioned too, it wasn't like it was loose. It didn't feel like it was coming undone at all. It looked like where they tied the knot in the part that was sticking out, it looked like it just hadn't been snipped or it hadn't been burned. I'll probably snip it off myself or something like that. I don't know. But it wasn't a loose thread. It was just a excess thread. Another thing too to kind of notice is I did notice online when I was looking at reviews of this bag before I purchased one, I saw that some people were complaining about like the details being cheap or something along those lines, or like, you know, the edge paint on certain aspects of the bag. Now, for me, there's like two spots that I notice any sort of like edge painting, and it's on the little handle, and then it's on those little leather pull tabs that are on the zipper. Now, looking into it, Nutsac's actually responded to that, and apparently on those pieces of the bag, they actually put this like little finish on like they put these little strips on the little pieces of leather that are like finishing strips that essentially, if they're, you know, either applied too hard or, you know, too much of it, they can potentially peel or come off at some point. But that's not the actual leather itself peeling or cracking or anything of that nature. It's the little excess finish on that really tiny piece of the bag. And when I was thinking about it, I was like, okay, well, you know, if I'm spending this much on a bag, that kind of sucks to have pieces of it, you know, coming apart, if you will. But the thing about it is if you're buying a bag like this that's made of this kind of leather that changes and patinas and ages and scuffs over time, that's the point of it. You want it to kind of like, you know, patina and wear in a certain way. Like, I don't think you should really care about if, you know, the handle starts to do that. That's the whole point. The whole point is it's supposed to get scuffed up and look crazy good over time. So I think people are just looking for anything to gripe at because, like I said, this bag is super phenomenal and it's really hard to find anything wrong with it. So I just figured I would address that because I know some people online have talked about that, and I figured Nutsac would appreciate my take on it. One thing too, I was also extremely surprised how light the bag is. So coming from, you know, other bags that I've carried, I actually have a full grain leather backpack, and that thing, I feel like I'm going like backpacking every time I carry it. It is so unbelievably heavy and chunky. And just not, it has leather straps too, and they're super uncomfortable. And so this bag, I believe it weighs like 3.75 pounds, plus whatever stuff you shove inside of it. It's honestly super light, and I could carry this all day, no problem. I think that's pretty unique for a leather bag because my understanding is leather bags are usually pretty heavy, and this one, being as nice as it is and as big as it is, it felt way lighter than I was expecting. Now, all in all, everything I just mentioned, it brings us to that phrase that I mentioned at the top of the video, which was quality over quantity. So when it comes to this bag, this is truly the epitome of quality over quantity. The price definitely reflects it. This bag will set you back $540, but you know, it's honestly pretty difficult to find a made in the USA full grain, full leather bag of this, you know, quality for anything lower than that. Like, you'll usually find them much higher than that. And the way I looked at it is what you're getting is a lifetime bag. So you could go ahead and buy crappy messenger bags that are gonna rip on you or tear on you or get messed up, you know, maybe every couple years or year or so, depending on how you use your products. Or you could buy one thing that's like unbelievably high quality, that has a lifetime guarantee, that's made in the USA with incredible craftsmanship, that's gonna last you forever and look way better over time. It is a lot to spend at one point for an item, but honestly, the way I was looking at it is I wanted something that was gonna last me forever, and I genuinely feel like this will. I could see me passing this down to my son one day, and I plan to. It's just so nice, and it looks so beautiful, and I'm so excited to see how it looks as time goes by. You know, Nutsac really does value their customers. They're not like a huge behemoth company, so they really do have phenomenal, you know, customer support, and I've heard really great things about it. I've had a great experience with my bag, so I haven't had to use their customer support myself. But as a whole, I watched a lot of content around this bag before making this kind of investment, and I can assure you from what I've seen and what I've experienced personally, it's well worth it. You know, if this is still a little bit too much of a pill to swallow as far as price point goes, I definitely recommend you check out a lot of their wax canvas options, because those bags are also phenomenal quality, and they're much cheaper than $540 for the exact same design, but just in a wax canvas version. And those bags will also look great with time as well. But personally, I think it's worth saving up over time to get something that's like just cream of the crop, absolute best that you can get. I really don't have too much more to say about this bag. It was literally exactly what I was looking for and worth every single penny in my personal opinion. So if you watching this can identify with any of the things that I mentioned that I was looking for, I really don't think you'll be disappointed if you decide to go pick one of these guys up. Truly, from the bottom of my heart, I can't see a world where someone gets this bag and doesn't love it. But yeah, that brings us to the end of this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. If you found this video helpful or you enjoyed it in any way, or even if you just made it this far, I'd really appreciate it if you hit that thumbs up button for me, and it helps kind of get the word out. It helps let, other brands know, and it lets me get opportunities to check out more cool products that I can go ahead and share with you. So that being said, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.